time for us to tackle the 1990 Zeffirelli adaptation starring Mel Gibson.
I'm out. Sorry, no. Bye.
Before we get any further into this, let's tackle the elephant in the room. The incest.
Whoa, wait a second. Incest? Already?
I'd really rather just get this part out of the way for both of our sanity's sakes.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go warm up my shower.
Yeah, you go ahead and do that. Mine's already running. Anyway, if you've heard of this movie at all, you've probably heard about the incest.
Alright, I'm wearing eye protection now, so I should be okay. I'm sorry guys for the first 2 times, I just wasn't ready to... Oh, the goggles! The goggles do nothing! Why?
The closet scene with Mel Gibson's Hamlet and Glenn Close's Gertrude is just bizarre, plowing ahead into the R-rated material without so much as a backwards glance. Any and all puns you find in there, assume they're intended. You should have skipped this one, buddy. Yeah. As far as this repeated thrusting in the direction of the womb from whence he came, I just don't buy it. I'm not that squicked out. It's sketchy, yes, but it's so shameless that it's hard to even react to it. The movie basically dares to be salacious without prompting much more than an, oh, well then, that is odd.
What's really freaking me out is that this movie was rated PG, despite this lovely son-to-mother thrusting sequence. The fact that Gertrude actually French kisses her son immediately after made it seem like she was more than ready to take this past dry humping, and was only blocked by the appearance of her ex-husband's ghost. Now, Franco Zeffirelli is known to have less than subtle sexual overtones in his films, but in those, they're actually justified. This just feels like something he shot so that people would have something to talk about. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a date with some extra strength brain bleach.
Me too, actually. Again, I'm not that squicked out, but I'd really rather just not have that image in my head for the rest of the review. We'll be right back. Well, now that we've cleared our brains of any visual recollection of that last scene, let's zoom out a second and talk about the script cut. It's another heavily cut version that snips in and out and reorders things, and that's fine for a film. Unfortunately, they forgot that you're supposed to do these cuts to enhance the story, not to puree it. The movie barely even tells you who the main character is, and the pathetically late introduction of Hamlet, the Prince of Denmark, makes you just not care. By the time Hamlet has had any screen time, you're halfway through and you're not really ready to have a major league incest scene thrown at you. Just saying. No amount of goggles will ever make this okay.
The presentation problems aren't just in the script, they're in the actual shots as well. Take a look at this, for instance.
That he is mad, 'tis pity, 'tis true. 'Tis true, 'tis pity, and pity 'tis true.
Zeffirelli. Dude. This isn't your first movie. I'm fairly sure you're familiar with the concept of multiple takes. Granted, this shot involves a dolly, but it's not exactly the ending sequence of Branagh's Much Ado About Nothing. Doing another take wasn't exactly gonna stall the entire production. This isn't the only time where a better take could have been used. Yes, I'm fully aware that the player queen's outfit does get stuck in the scenery, but that's supposed to represent theater, and things like that do happen. No, I'm talking about the shots where you can clearly see the camera shadow, and where the first AC seemed to be having a seizure since the image focus was all over the place. I would say they could have fixed these problems in post, but I very much doubt that since this film has drastic lighting inconsistency between a few shots, and one of the fade transitions actually ends up happening during a freeze frame.
The setting and the costumes started out seeming pretty on the nose and overly medieval, but they grew on me by the end. Probably the best part of this terrible movie, I guess.
While the sets are lovely, a fine point being that Polonius hides behind tapestry instead of curtains, the props seem to be on the anachronistic side. One of the more obvious instances involve letters. For some reason, Hamlet's letter to Ophelia seems to have been written in perfectly cut 8.5 by 11 inch paper. The same anachronism goes with the execution order that Hamlet takes from Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, although in that case it's 8.5 by 14-inch paper, and since it's technically a legal document, I guess I can give this movie points for the consistency of the inconsistency.
Polonius is just annoying. This is not a reaction to falling off a 1-foot ladder.
Oh, it's a balloon!
What the hell? There is silly old dude, and then there's annoying dipshit, and this is the latter. As far as the man Polonius works for, surprisingly not awful in this film is Claudius's freak out during the play within a play. Other than that, though, despite having this rather lauded cast, Ophelia and Laertes seem to be the only people who are trying. Ophelia, played by Helena Bonham Carter, gets to actually be mad. Her sexually depraved lunacy is entertaining and legitimately dark. And Laertes, God bless him, he desperately tries to save the last half hour of this movie, and I just feel sorry watching him. Part of me wants to say, good on you, dude, you're the only one left who cares, and another part of me wants to tell him to give the f*** up. And Horatio, the character who's supposed to remind us why we should even care about Hamlet, is barely there and kind of awful.
Yeah, she's not kidding about the Horatio. Stephen Delane didn't seem to care much about this production. At all. Take a look at this line delivery of Horatio's sad farewell to Hamlet.
Good night, sweet prince, and flights of angels sing thee to thy rest.
Notice anything strange about that line delivery? Yeah, that was ADR, which means that he originally delivered the line with even less conviction than what you just heard. When the actor playing Horatio doesn't care about a production that involves Ian Holm and Glenn Close, you have major problems.
And now for the man himself, Hamlet as portrayed by Mel Gibson. He's awful. Just awful. Mad is not drunk, and someone really needs to tell him that. With how drunk he seems throughout most of this, I'm almost willing to buy that his anti-Semitism is somehow related to alcohol use. Almost.
Judging him as just an actor without all the baggage that comes with being Mel Gibson, he's not a very good Hamlet. His approach to Hamlet's addict disposition ended up looking more like, as Cassius mentioned, constant inebriation, and it just detached me from the character completely.
To sum up, just spare yourself. It's not good.
It really isn't.
There's no reason to do this to yourself. Avoid it at all costs. We suffered through this so that you won't have to. Don't let our sacrifice be in vain.
And with that, we end our look at the theatrical atrocity that was Franco Zeffirelli's Hamlet. Next time, we'll take a look at an adaptation that didn't really bother editing the text.
Until then, this has been Cassius.
And this has been Sharky.
Mel Gibson, thou wretched, rash, intruding fool, farewell.